Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Plot podcast. Before I introduce my next guest, please can I ask you to share, like, and subscribe to this podcast? It would really mean a lot to me. So let me get back to our guest this week. She is the brilliant Australian author, Dani McLean. If you love a book that balances a genuinely sweet romance with a little bit of spice, Dani writes shamelessly fun contemporary romance with what she calls an open door policy. She's all about stories that make you feel good and take your heart on an adventure. So sit back, relax, and tune in to hear from the amazing Dani McLean. Hey, Dani, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really well. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I'm
No, thank you for having me.
very excited to have you. So for the listeners that maybe don't know who you are, do you want to just give a real brief intro, a little bit about yourself?
Yep, absolutely. So I'm Dani McLean. I live in Australia over on the west side, and I publish independently contemporary romance with lots of whimsy and heat.
Brilliant, brilliant. And I've followed you for a while, right? On and off, we've kind of connected through the years,
Yep,
having been in Australia myself. And when I launched this podcast, I thought you'd be a perfect guest to be on here and tell your
well,
story. So thank you so much for being on here. So let's take it all the way back, right? So when did it first start for you? When did you think, or when did you start writing?
as early as is humanly possible, basically. Even as a kid, I don't know how old I was exactly, but Mum has a printout of this 5-sentence story that I'd made up and put in the local paper. And it was about two witch sisters that lived next door to each other. And it was very, they both had cats. And I don't even remember it beyond, finding it every once in a while when somebody
Yeah,
moves and we go through the shed. But yeah, I've been writing my whole life.
yeah,
I've only started thinking seriously about publishing in the last few years, but just books and stories and that imagination, the magic that comes from just diving into a new world or a new person's life and following that journey has just always appealed to me. So yeah.
yeah. You can get lost in the story, right? And it's kind of a break from reality, and you can
Yeah.
kind of create your
It
own world.
it felt like a piece that was missing, and it fed into my curiosity in a way that as soon as I started reading, I was like, that was it. Like,
Yeah,
you know, it was never going to be anything but books. And
yeah,
yeah, I think that that's just stayed with me forever. And I loved just writing ideas down for the longest time. It just felt like being able to tap into creativity was something fun. And then I got to a point where I was like, I really should take this seriously and actually try try to finish a story and do something with it.
So what made you make that decision, and how did you start that process?
It's probably a little cliche at this point, but it really was COVID. I
Yeah.
think being stuck inside and it not having the excuse of plans or,
Mhm.
leaving my house, I think, really worked to keep me focused. And I really I had reached a point at the same time life-wise. I was coming out of a marriage. I left my job at the end of 2020. And I think just all of those life changes was really effective in making me reflect on what I
Yeah.
wanted and my future. And I knew that writing was something I wanted to try
Yeah.
and have that answer of if I could. And as soon as I started, I just couldn't stop. So that was
Yeah.
that was really the push
Pivotal
I needed.
moments. Yeah, I think, major life events happening there, right? And I think it's great to see that you took that step of faith to kind of launch yourself into that world, because it's not an easy thing to do, mentally and physically, right? It's
Absolutely.
you're making yourself vulnerable as well, stepping into a new world, a new adventure. So how did you do that? So in terms of, you've been writing for a number of years, you made that decision, hey, actually, I want to take this more seriously. What were the steps then you took after that to start launching that new career?
The biggest things that I did, I mean, outside of just finishing a manuscript, which I'd done a number of times already, but they all got shelved. It was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, the story is finished and I'm done. I can start a new one." So it really was at that point, like, what don't I know?
Hmm.
And it was just a lot of me researching both the publishing routes that I had. Was I going to go traditional? What did that mean? What did that entail? Was I going to self publish? Could I find anyone who had done it and could talk, YouTube
Hmm.
videos or blogs or, communities, writing groups, things like that, who could help me discover what it was that I needed to do next. And that meant, and immediately was just completely overwhelmed by the list of, I needed this editor and a cover designer, and I needed to understand what ISBNs were and how that worked and how do you even get the book out to people, and what do you price it,
Yeah.
and that wasn't even going as far as marketing. So it really was, a deluge of overwhelming information. And for me, in the beginning, I really just took it like one thing at a time. So,
Yeah.
get the book to a point where I can get it out and then find out, what's after that. So that I could kind of cut the mountain into little more
Yeah.
easily traversable chunks.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, get it out there and then learn as you go, kind of go along. Because I think sometimes people think it has to be perfect, like they have to know everything, which is, it's really tough, isn't it? Especially if you're not traditionally published. I mean, when you get traditionally published, they take care of a lot of that, right? You still have to market yourself, but they've got a whole team. But if you're doing it independently, it all falls on you, and
Yeah.
it's hard to navigate and understand the whole process in what that looks like.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the biggest driver for making that decision for me was a little good and a little bad. On the one hand, I wanted to know every step. Just, if I liked it, similar to a good meal, I wanted to know how to make it again,
Hmm.
and be confident in that and get that experience. And I was also extremely impatient. And I knew from doing my research how long the traditional publishing road can
Yeah.
take. And obviously, it's different for everybody. But in the beginning, I heard that and I was like, I don't want to wait 3 years. I don't want it out now. It's done. I need to move on.
Yeah.
Um, so that really made the choice for me. But yeah, I don't think I was quite prepared for how much work it was going to be,
Yeah.
and all, like, over and over and over again. So
Yeah. So if you could think back to when you first started, would you do anything differently now, knowing what you know?
no, absolutely. Yeah, I think, well, apart from just being kinder to myself during the whole process,
Yeah.
I I would definitely have gotten a author community, just
Mhm.
peers that I trusted sooner.
Yeah.
I tried to tackle a lot of it just on my own, and I think that isolation, especially, I mean, during 2020, was made it probably harder than it needed to be.
Mhm.
And there's some things that I've only learned through experience, but I also know, had I talked to other people early on who'd done it, I wouldn't have been so terrified that I had to have a newsletter immediately and a website immediately, and and all of those things that you can just pick it up as you
Mm.
go.
Yeah.
And and you don't have to pressure yourself, like you said, to be perfect across
Yeah.
everything immediately. And yeah, I think that would have been a huge help.
Yeah, because you just mentioned a community. So you're part of RWA, right? So Romance Writers of Australia.
Yes.
Yeah. So when did you find your community? And does it go beyond RWA as well?
It does, and that's the only writing, like, formal writing association that I've been a part of.
Mhm.
Now it's just friends and authors, people I've met through signings and online through social
Sure.
media. Sometimes it's just as simple as, you know, reading a book, loving it, sliding into another author's DMs. I'm not saying it works every time, but it has definitely helped um, to make friends that way. And it took me about a year. One of the things that has taken me the longest to learn, and the biggest struggle that I've had has just been confidence.
Yeah.
And even as far as messaging another author to say, I loved this book or I loved this moment, just to fangirl in that way, all the way to, accepting invites like this, going to signings and
Yeah.
talking to readers, all the way to confidence in my own writing voice.
Yeah.
And so I think right at the beginning, I was so afraid to even tell anyone I was a writer or that I wanted to be a writer, that really held me back from making friends with
Yeah.
other authors. And it wasn't until I did that I started to hear, like, established authors of over a decade say, "Oh, I'm really struggling with this draft," or "I'm really struggling with these edits," or, and I'm hearing that reflection of pain points that I'm going through, and I think, "Oh my god, it's not just me. I don't just suck at all of this." It's everyone feels the same thing, and it was so validating, and it really, you know, blew away all of my fears of being able to, reach out and connect to other authors.
Yeah, and that's great. It's tough, isn't it, when you're in that position because you're marketing yourself. It's that vulnerability piece that are people going to like your books? Are people going to like you? And there's
Mhm.
nothing to hide behind, really. So, no, totally get that. And I find that you know, any author that I've interacted with has always welcomed me with open arms. Like they're so lovely, and the same.
Absolutely.
You can message them and you think, "Oh, I'm not going to get a reply," and then they reply, and you're like, "Oh, that's it's amazing." And I
It's
think,
absolutely wonderful, and I think that that's what I didn't know in the beginning. I thought, "Oh, I can't talk to such and such because
yeah,
they're so much more accomplished than me," or, whatever. Absolutely have not ever met a person who wasn't completely welcoming,
yeah,
especially with advice or experience.
yeah,
It was a huge game changer.
yeah. I completely agree with that. So let's talk about kind of the books that you have written. So did you start with the novella series? So is that what you started with and now you've gone into
No, I started with, my first series was, 3 interconnected standalones. They were full lengths. They're all set in Chicago, because I just have a love of Chicago, having been there a number of times. And the first one did mirror a little bit of what I was going through. The main character, Audrey, is divorced and she's going back into the dating scene after a year. And then it went from there. The second book is her best friend. And then the third book are the co stars of the show that Audrey's partner is
Mhm.
the star in. So it all connects that way. And after that, so those are straight contemporary romance.
Yeah.
There's no other elements, and I came out of that and I knew I wanted to d switch up. I think I wasn't really sure what I wanted to write next,
Mhm.
and I have I grew up watching a lot of rom-coms from the '90s.
Yeah.
My younger sister and I were only a couple years apart, and we would walk to our local video store because we're old enough to still remember Video Easy and Blockbuster
Nice.
and all of
Yeah.
that. And we would go and just rent out as many videos as we could and just watch them over and over and over, and we always went towards the, like, romance comedy
Yeah. Yeah.
style. So it was even things like First Wives Club, Drop Dead Fred, When Harry Met Sally, like all across the spectrum, Princess Bride even, lots
Yeah.
of, you know, action adventure, very whimsical, very light-hearted, movies, and I've just kept that love my whole life, and I remember finishing my first series and thinking, "I really wanna write something that's a little bit lighter, a little bit fun," and, that's where the novella series was
Okay.
born. I decided, like, I love back in the '90s when magic happened and it was never
Yeah.
explained. There's this movie, I think it's called Simply Irresistible, and Sarah Michelle Gellar plays a chef and she has magic powers, and that's all I remember about it, but it's never explained. It's just like, you just wake up, or Dating the Enemy, that movie with, Claudia Karvan and Guy Pearce, and it's just
Yeah.
they make a wish, and then the next day they're, like, living in each other's bodies, and then they fall in love again because they get, new perspective, and I just wanted to write that. I just wanted to
Yeah.
play around and get in the sandbox and not be beholden to anything.
Yeah.
So I knew I was gonna write 5. I basically planned it in advance, how many I wanted to do, how long I wanted them to be, and what magic I wanted in each one.
Mhm.
So I could prepare in advance, and then, yeah, I just went ahead and wrote them all so that I could release them in pretty quick succession. But the
Mhm.
real driver for me was just tapping into that creativity and that passion, and just feeling a little bit freer with my writing,
Yeah.
and so that I could remember why I was doing it, and it didn't feel like I was, I don't know, uh, I don't know, doing it, for any other reasons than the love of it,
Yeah.
basically. I think because my first series was such a deep end, jump into marketing,
Mhm.
especially, and sales and arcs and things like that, that at the end of it, I just didn't wanna do anything that felt corporately driven as far as the
Mhm.
business side of things. I just wanted to be silly and fun,
Yeah.
and that's where that really came from.
Yeah, I love that story. So you mentioned 90s rom-coms, you and your sister watching them, and I'm a huge fan of 90s rom-coms as well. So a lot of those titles you just referenced, I can remember watching as I was a teenager growing up. Um, what else inspires you? So obviously that's an element that inspires some of your writing. What else inspires you?
I mean, honestly, anything can. And other people's stories always. And I mean, fictional, real. I love, people watching and chit-chatting. I mean, I've gotten inspired on terrible dates. Just either because of the experience that I've had, I get home and I'm like, God, this has to be, in paper. Like I need something good to come from this. Um, or even just the people that I've met while I've been dating, and they say something fascinating, and I think, "Oh, that could be an interesting aspect to add to a character," or it's usually just like a stepping stone. I hear
Yeah.
something interesting or I see something interesting, um, and it sparks the imagination.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it honestly comes from anywhere, and it's I usually find it's when I'm my most at peace. So if I'm stressed, it's really hard to get those, you know, sparks
Yeah.
coming. But yeah, that's so anytime I take a break, and I'm just ending a break at the moment from my
Yeah.
last book, I will devour like everything. You know, I relax by rewatching comfort shows like Supernatural or
Oh,
Hannibal. Um, I'll watch, somebody play a city builder game for like 2 hours while
Yeah.
they chat about stuff, and just the most random things can be like, "Oh, actually, they were just talking about journalism in the '60s, right? Let me just write that down." And like, it can just anything can spark inspiration.
Yeah. So how long do you have a break when you stop, you know, one book? How long do you give yourself until you feel inspired to write another one, or does it just depend on how you're feeling?
It really depends. I've started to give myself more time. I used to basically cram books, back to back,
Mm,
less because I had to and just because I always wanted to keep up the momentum. I think in the beginning as well, it was more of a discipline factor, whereas
yeah,
now I know, I could trust myself to sit down and write a couple of
yeah.
thousand words. It usually depends on what I've got on. I have a day job that I work full
Mm,
time, so sometimes that's a factor. I can't
yeah,
always just keep going. I don't like
yeah,
burning out because then it might be 3 months before I
yeah,
can draft again. So it's been a little bit longer this time around. It's been 4 weeks, and I kind of wanted to get started 3 weeks, in, but and then we had a long weekend, and I just wanted to sit under my weighted blanket and do nothing for 3 days. So I yeah, I've learned to be kinder to myself about those moments because you can't, I've grown to feel like that creativity is a well, is a
mm,
vessel for, what you're inspired by, and if you are constantly just pouring it out and never letting it
yeah,
refill, it can just be really, really hard to keep going. So, it's
yeah,
been nice to just reset and
yeah.
read and catch up on my TBR. So
So you just mentioned you work full time as well. How do you juggle like time and being an author? Because that's intense.
Um
Don't don't get say
Really,
my name.
I don't know. I'm very lucky that I get to work from home, a few days a week, so at least that shortens my commute,
Yeah.
makes it a little easier to do other things when I'm working from
Mhm.
home. Hopefully my boss isn't seeing this, but if I'm in a workshop and I just have to
Yeah.
listen in, then I can be doing my laundry at the same time and
Yes.
things like
Yeah.
that. So it means that when I clock out at the end of the day, I have, the whole evening. I live alone. I don't have a partner or children, so I am very lucky in that sense. I'm fortunate that I have a lot of time
Mhm.
at my disposal in that way. So, yeah, it's really a juggling act. I
Yeah.
usually give myself less of a word count goal Monday to Friday, just because I know, if I have a really rough day at work, mentally, physically, whatever, it might be nice to just take a night off and not have to then craft, the next 1,000 words or edit 50 pages or, whatever goal I've set
Yeah.
for myself. And then obviously that extends a little bit on the weekend because there's more
Yeah.
time. So,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
good. I think that's an even kind of, even kill to focus on, right? Is that you're not putting too much pressure on yourself that, right, I finished work at 5 p.m. I've now got to write X amount of thousand words in the
yeah,
next 2 hours. Because I almost feel if you put too much pressure on yourself, you start to lose the inspiration, you start to lose the love and the joy for it. And it becomes like a
absolutely.
task. And ultimately, you don't want it to be a task. You want it to be something that you enjoy doing.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm also a morning person. I
Yeah.
start work at, like, 7 a.m. So, I'm usually out of the office or I'm home and offline by about 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I can have maybe an hour or 2 hours complete break, and I always have that, you know, piece of time, not just in the car or, sometimes I'll walk to and from the office.
Mhm.
I want it to be in the house, on the couch. I wanna, doom scroll on a social
Yeah.
media for an hour, just decompress completely and set that boundary, and then get back into it. So that's what I've learnt. Like, it took a long time. It took, like, maybe 10 books to get to a point
Yeah.
where I'm like, "Okay, I understand how I work now." And
Yeah.
then, you know, and then being able to sort of work that into something that keeps me on track.
Yeah. So being an independent or like published author, how do you manage social media and marketing yourself and selling your books?
Oof, not very well, I think. I think I've always wanted to do more or,
Mhm.
I don't know that I'm confident enough in my own skills with it that I that it comes easy. It feels like it takes a level of effort for me that, say, writing or editing doesn't. It
Yeah.
feels like a completely new skill set. I have just over time looked at other posts or reels or videos that I've liked and tried to take notes and inspiration from
Mhm.
that. I try to limit my time on things like Canva,
Yeah.
um, only because I can get completely lost in it and lose an entire evening just
Yeah.
playing around. So usually now it's okay, tonight is a Canva night, and I know these are the 10 posts that I'll prep and I'll spend as long as I need to on that. And then tomorrow I'll do something else because I used to try to mix it in, do a little bit of writing, a little bit of marketing
Okay.
all in one day. That didn't work for me. I needed the sole focus,
Yeah.
because I'm already battling a little bit of, scattered
Yeah.
thoughts. So adding that in to my routine did not help at all.
Yeah, yeah, and I find social media, it's just evolving, and there's so many platforms
Constantly.
nowadays. You need to know the algorithm because I feel like you can post something and get like minimal hits, and then you can post something very similar the next day, and then you get so many people interacting with it. And I struggle personally with social media. I'm
Yes.
like, and I'm someone who at times I'm just like, I'm just going to switch off because it's quite intense right now and it's very time consuming, but there's people out there who know how to work social media,
Absolutely. I'm so
and
in awe.
followings that they get are phenomenal. I just struggle, and it sounds like it's one of those platforms that you just got to be true to yourself, right? What can you actually do? How can you use it? And hopefully it's going to give you some kind of lift up to
Yeah,
who
I
you
think
are.
like with your writing,
Yeah.
making a decision on what it is you're trying to achieve,
Yeah.
what the point is for you. I personally don't have any mind for what works to sell.
Mhm.
I've stopped attempting to think about it from that
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah,
I wanna have fun with it because
yeah,
it is one of those things where, like the gym, just getting me there is hard enough, like, just let it be fun after that point, right? It's already hard. I just let's not make it worse. So,
yeah,
I focus on, you know, either especially in the moments where I'm really excited about something. So, if I've just written a scene that I'm absolutely loving, I will just film. And I personally don't worry too much, and this took a while about, the look and the vibe
yeah,
and all of that stuff. I know that that works great for some people, but if I
yeah,
had to get ready for every 10-second video, I would never film. I would just it's too hard. I wanna just grab my phone and say something
yeah,
quickly. I use especially when I have books out for beta reading and I'm
mhm,
getting people's messages to say, "Oh my god, I just read this bit. I love this bit." I find those are really great moments to
yeah,
then phone and say like, "Oh, this obviously resonated, so this will be the bit that I talk about." or I focus a lot on just what excites me about the story and hope
Yeah.
that that translates.
Yeah.
But, other than that, no, I have no clue what I'm doing.
I think most of us don't.
It's I'm just there, and sometimes I have no ideas, and so I will, and, a lot of times I think, and it's taken me a while to get to this point, I used to be very fearful, and this comes in with the confidence of pushing too much. I remember with
Yeah.
my first series, even on Instagram, I would post, once about a book or a line, or and then be like, I can't post that again because
Yeah.
everyone's already seen it. Nobody's seen it.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. And even if, my best friend was seeing the exact same post 7 times in
Yeah.
a week, she's not gonna, stop talking to me or
No, no.
whatever. So I really had to get over that hump, and then things like trends,
Yeah.
especially, are such an easy way of doing something without having to have an idea before you set up as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. For me, it's just whatever works. I
I
think.
know. You can think about it too
So
much 'cause I follow
yeah,
people and they post like 15 times a day, and I sit there and think,
I
"Why am I
wish.
watching this?" Like, but
I
but
know.
they're pulling me in, and then I keep following them, and then I
Yes.
think, "Well, what's attracting me to this?" I don't know.
Yes.
I like the content. I like who they are. Sometimes it might be I don't always agree with what they're saying, but I'll just keep quiet. Right? I don't kind of respond to them, and then they post stuff that I like again. So I always think
Yeah.
like, what's pulling me to people? I think it's just being true to yourself, isn't it? And I
Yeah.
think people can see that, and that's kind of one of those things probably for me that I get attracted to following individuals because I like their
It is.
story. They sound genuine, they're authentic, they're real. And for me, that's the kind of person that I like. And that's probably why I follow them. And I think you just have to be yourself and not pretend to be someone else because otherwise people will be able to see through it eventually.
And it's such hard work. I think even if it worked, I just don't have the energy for it.
Yeah,
If somebody said to me, "You could sell 1,000,000 copies of your book tomorrow if you just pretended to do this and this and this," I'd be like,
yeah.
"No, thank you.
No.
I don't have time for that."
Yeah. Do you have an end goal? So you're working full time at the moment. You're doing your writing when you can fit it in. You have a bit of a schedule, but obviously you need to still be inspired. Do you have a bit of an end goal of like where you want to be? Like when you want to do, when you'll be in a position to solely do this?
I haven't thought of it so much in, like, hard terms.
Yeah.
I think the closest I've ever come is if the books earn me what I currently get paid,
Hmm.
then I wouldn't do both.
Yeah.
I would only need, so much to get by. I would probably hold out just, like, even if it started and I went, oh, like, a whole
Mm,
year, then I would probably, at that point, make the call, because
yeah.
I feel like, if I did it after a month, I'd probably get too excited, quit my job in a, like, absolute frenzy, and then be completely terrified that it was all gonna crumble
Yeah.
underneath me. So,
Yeah.
I do absolutely, the only goal that I have is to do it, keep doing it, to keep writing,
Yeah.
and I'd love to not have that pull in a
Yeah.
completely different direction, because it is exhausting to have 2 jobs. But yeah, it's just going to be, you know, like what it is
Yeah.
until the books are more sustainable, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. And in the
And it will
meantime, I'll just
happen.
enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah, enjoy the ride.
That's it, and I that had took me, oh my god, it's way too long to get to that point where I was so set, and this was where the impatience came in the beginning, of just, like, getting it done and getting it out there, and,
Yeah,
that the goal was just, like, selling it, and then I was like, "But wait, I hated, like, 90% of that, so why would I wanna do it again?" And it was, it's been um, it's been a huge lesson to just enjoy as much of it. Obviously, there are
Yeah.
gonna be days where, it's frustrating, but enjoy as much of it as you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. So, question, if you could co-write a book with anyone, who would it be?
Oh my god. I'm gonna have the most odd answer because I'm a mood reader and I read, like, across lots of genres, but on brand because of what we were just talking about, uh, probably, and you might not know, but, either Chuck Tingle, and he's an
Okay.
author, like, if you know, you know, or Ruby Dixon, because I just feel like, I have the most fun reading their writing, and
Yeah.
I feel like they would just be a blast to have that back and forth with.
Yeah. Do they write I mean, I'm unsure of these
So
people, so
Chuck
apologies.
writes Chuck is, both self-published and traditionally published. His
Yeah.
traditionally published books are horror, uh,
Okay.
stories, but his self-published books are, very how would I describe them? Very campy,
Yeah.
like, very smutty,
Yeah.
um, open-minded. It's I mean, we're talking, oh my gosh, we're talking lots of, very strange objects being the
Okay.
main character.
Oh,
Sometimes it's
okay.
dinosaurs or it's the concept of something that you're falling in love with. He's a very wild and wonderful, creative,
Yeah.
and nothing is off limits, and I absolutely love it. They're like little, like, no, I wouldn't say hallmarks, very very, they're like the spiciest, like, little erotica, books that
Yeah.
just make me laugh,
Okay.
and yeah, it just feels like he has a lot of fun. So,
Well,
a
that
a
would be very
anyone
interesting.
who can, write the things that he writes must be a very cool dude.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that would be that I can imagine. Well, one day, hey, one day you can put that
Yeah,
out in
you
the
never know.
universe. It may
Never
happen
say
now.
never.
He might be listening and then
It's
he'll
a
go, "Hey,
very
Daddy."
yeah, dream collab, let's do
Yeah.
it.
I'll definitely be reading that. I'm intrigued about him now. I'm definitely gonna go look him up on the internet after this and
I got introduced to him just through, I think it was a Reddit post years ago that was laughing about his titles because his titles are just wacky,
yeah,
and they crack me up, and they don't look like they're real books, but they are, and he's just, it's amazing the warmth and the humor that he injects into stories that have absolutely no business being as good as they are, but they're wonderful. So, yeah.
oh, well, you never know, you never know. Um, what about if you could have one of your books adapted into a TV series or a film? Who would you have play the lead role?
This is so hard. I I have been asked this multiple times, and I think what's really difficult is I don't own a television, and so I am not
Right.
with the I'm not with the
Yeah,
times. I watch a lot on my laptop, and I comfort watch shows that ended, like, years ago.
yeah.
But if I had to, I think firstly, one of the stories that I would absolutely love to see as a movie is my 3rd novella in the series, A Missing Connection,
Mhm.
because I love a telepathic romance. I just think that I the concept is so lovely, the fact that they fall in
Yeah,
love having never seen each other, and they have access to the most intimate part of
yeah,
themselves, and it really lets them be vulnerable from the
yeah,
get-go. So if I had to cast that, I feel like Austin Butler could be a really
yeah.
good Beau. I mean, like, he already does a little bit of the long hair look, and I've yet to see him in a film where he is, like, in the dapper three-piece suit, so,
Yes. He
this is
always
just me
takes a bit
being
like of a
selfish. I wanna
rugby
see Austin Powers,
boy.
right? But I also think he has a, yeah, like a grounded kind of warmth to him, so there's a little
Yeah.
bit of that, little bit of Beau in that. And then for April, maybe Daisy Edgar Jones. I really love her work in, I mean, I first saw her in Fresh, so that's probably a very weird movie to say
Yeah.
that I liked her in, but also, she was in Twisters and,
Yeah.
a bunch of other stuff, and I think that, she's absolutely yeah, she has a very soft sort of, lovely vibe to her, so that's probably who
Yeah.
I'd go with.
Ah, yeah. I think they're good choices. Definitely Austin Butler. I'd like to see him in, yeah, doing a slightly different role, and
Yeah. Yeah.
he's a great actor. He definitely is.
He is.
Yeah.
I think
What
I think
about
because 'cause I've seen him in, like, light stuff and then obviously more serious roles, so I feel like
yeah.
he'd be really versatile.
Yeah, I think so. What about if you could write anywhere in the world, where would you do it from?
I mean, I guess the set of the hit TV series based on my novels would be the perfect place, but if I can't be there, um look, I'm a sucker for a cabin in a
Yeah.
snowy woods. I worked for a season in, at a Canada, um, ski field,
Okay.
and,
Yeah.
I just something about the Rockies and the snow. I was there over Christmas, so, there was, in the wilderness, there's, animals everywhere, and that was something I think being in Australia that I just have such a romantic view of
Yeah.
snowy snowy mountains, so, yeah,
That
somewhere
does
like that would
sound
be
the
lovely.
dream. Yeah, nice and cozy fire. You see it a lot
Yes,
in movies, don't you, as well? You're like, "Oh, there's," I wanna be in that position. Yeah.
right? Someone to
Yeah,
keep me warm.
yeah, I've got my hot drink or wine and
That's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Perfect. No people around. That's the key.
No, no,
No
keep
crowd.
away from me when I'm
Yes.
doing my writing. Um, okay, perfect. And then in terms of, I mean, a piece of advice that you would give to aspiring authors, you know, looking back to where you first started, what advice would you give them?
Oof, there's so much. I think I think really be kind to yourself as you're
Yeah,
learning. No one is expecting you to know everything. Everyone is willing to give you advice. I know that it can be overwhelming,
yeah,
um, but it you learn over time. It's okay to make mistakes.
yeah,
It's not, you know, ending. It's not life threatening. You can always come back. I think it's just about, you know, knowing when to listen and when to trust your
yeah,
instinct. Yeah, but it's very much internally, don't don't villainize yourself too much because even the process of editing
mm,
the first time around was terrifying to me. I used to hate getting the email with the manuscript back and just, seeing all of the red, all of the changes
yeah,
and things like that and having that wall of this was wrong, fix this kind of thing.
right,
And it would have really helped me, I think, in the beginning to just know like that's a good thing, that's a gift.
yeah,
And you don't have to it's not a sign that this isn't something you aren't good at. You
yeah,
you just need to practice. It's just gonna take
yeah,
time.
yeah. Do you think there's any myths about being an author or writing a book?
Anyone who says it's easy, maybe? I'm sure it is for some, and I think the more experienced you are, the
Yeah,
easier some parts get. But, um I think also one myth that surprised me, because it is a creative passion, I always saw it as something that I would never dislike doing. Like,
Yeah.
that there wouldn't be those days where I just thought, like, "No." It's like, I hate this part," or, "I
Yeah.
never wanna do it again." I thought, you know, it's going to be rainbows and poppies every day, and I'm gonna love it, and I'll wake up wanting to do it every second. And there are, more days like that than
Yeah.
anything else, but there are just going to be times where,
Yeah.
setback will make you wonder what what you're even doing this for, and is this something that you really wanna do? And like I said, it wasn't until I started being vulnerable with other authors that I found out I'm not the only person who's had that thought. And you can be, you can have had successes in the past and still have days where you think like,
Yeah.
"Do I, like, what, like, wanna keep
Mm.
doing this?" So, that was a huge myth that I was shocked to discover, that it wasn't going to be, just wonderful every day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to have its struggles. I think with anything people do, right? Whether you're working full time, whether in a different profession, um, there's always struggles no matter what you do. So I think to have that opinion that it is all rosy and sunshine, that
Yeah.
you have those tough days where you go, just throw your manuscript away. I want to start
Um,
again. Um,
honestly, not my last release, Take My Word, on 2 separate occasions, my computer deleted a week's worth of work.
no.
And the second time it happened, I genuinely thought, maybe I should just delete the whole thing and never release this book, because I just did
The
not.
universe is
I
trying to tell you something.
I was at my rope. I was like, "This happens for a third time, it's a sign."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
So, yeah.
thankfully it didn't happen.
No, I know. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it's supposed to go out there.
Oh.
Um, so a little bit about yourself, because I saw that you love karaoke.
Yeah.
Just tell us a bit about yourself outside of, writing and
Yeah.
working. What do you love doing? What do you enjoy?
I mean, reading's the obvious.
Yes.
I do love karaoke. I never get invited. I mean, it bothers me sometimes, but I mean, one, I don't know too many people who really enjoy karaoke. It's definitely, I grew up loving music. Both of my
Yeah.
parents grew up loving music, and have very eclectic tastes. So and we had this massive stereo system with, huge record collection.
Mm,
So my younger sister and I would, like, basically play around with that, and, with 1 minute we'd be listening to Pink Floyd, and then the next minute we're listening to Frank Sinatra, and then it's, Mamas and the Papas, lots of 70s and 80s music. But then we also grew up in that time of, like, video hits, or, and so it was like Britney and NSYNC and
yeah.
Backstreet Boys, and, all of this stuff that even my parents would enjoy listening to. And so, yeah, it was music's really, really big for me. I listen to a lot of music. That's how I relax.
Yeah.
And, I write quite often with either instrumental,
Okay.
or, I'll craft, soundtracks for the
Yeah.
books. So
Amazing.
certain scenes have the vibe,
Yeah.
that I'm after. Um, I take myself to brunch a lot. I'm big on breakfast. I'm a huge
Yeah.
breakfast person. And coffee. Coffee is like my lifeblood. So,
Yeah.
breakfast is a huge thing for me, and I love discovering new cafes in the area.
Oh,
So
that is
I'll,
one thing I miss about Australia, is that the food, just
mm,
anywhere you go, you're gonna have, like, a good breakfast or brunch. Actually, probably any time you go out to eat, it's just phenomenal, right? And,
yeah,
hands down miss
just
miss that.
yeah, just
Miss
stumble into anywhere, and yeah, and get an amazing food. And I love the people watching opportunity. That's always fun as well. So
Yeah, yeah. Do you have
I
a do you have a favorite cafe that you go to?
the one that's on the other side of this wall is great. They
Little
know my
bang.
order. As soon as I walk in, it's like, "And here." It's perfect.
Oh, that's yeah. I'm more of a tea drinker. It's very cliche being from the UK.
Yeah.
But obviously coffee, yeah, Australians do coffee really, really well. I've heard that many times. I've tried to like it, and
Yep.
I can definitely taste the difference. But I'm one of those people. If I have coffee, I get really bad heart palpitations, so I avoid it.
Yeah, no, that's probably a great thing. I probably drink way too much coffee, honestly. I but what's funny, just as a random aside, I tried to start drinking less. So I take my
Yeah,
coffee black, and I sometimes suffer from migraines and a little bit of
yeah,
insomnia as well. And so I decided, okay, it's got to be caffeine. I'm gonna cut back. I'm only gonna drink it before 12, and
yeah.
then nothing in the evening, all that stuff. And then I went to see, my doctor about the migraines, and, no, apparently caffeine is great for migraines, so
Oh,
coffee was back on the menu. I was like, "Doctor's orders."
yeah. My
I'm
doctor's
following
been
his health
telling me
advice.
I don't drink coffee.
Exactly. It's for my head.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
Back to your coffee addiction again. So yeah,
Yeah,
you
I
can
know,
say
it's
you've got the
really
tick of
bad.
approval. Um, well, look, I've absolutely loved talking to you, and I know the listeners are going to really enjoy hearing your story. Where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Dani McLean Writes. And
Cool.
right now, and or my website, which is just www.dannymclean.com. You can sign up for my newsletter and get
Yeah,
news about releases and that there. And that's basically it. I
perfect.
keep my social media to the apps that I actually use.
Yes.
And I try not to spread myself too thin, but
No,
that's where
that's
you'll find
great.
me.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, because I think otherwise you can consume yourself, and then that will be a job in itself.
Yes, yes,
Takes you away from your other two that
exactly.
you have. Yeah.
Well, I figure if I'm already on there, it's like that first little step into actually using it. So
Yeah, 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 brilliant. Well, look, thank you so much. I've
thank
absolutely loved it.
you.
And yeah, I'll speak to you very, very soon, Dani.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to that episode of the podcast with Dani McLean. I hope you really enjoyed it. And make sure you check her out at her website, on Instagram, and on TikTok. Now, before we go, can I just ask you to like, share, and subscribe to my channels? It would truly mean a lot to me. Until the next podcast, I'll see you all very soon. Take care. Bye.